Microsoft's latest interactions with the Appleverse, and Spotify's lack of lossless. This is MacVoices. Today's MacVoices is supported by Kolide. Kolide ensures only secure devices can access your cloud apps. It's zero trust, tailor-made for Okta. Book a demo today at kolide.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. The MacVoices panel finishes up our conversation about how iMessage is kind of coming to Windows and Spotify's lack of lossless music support. Let's go back and let the panel do the talking. Britt, you've been awfully quiet. I know you're trying not to cough. Any thoughts on this?
I agree it's piggybacking off of other APIs. Why not? If I were Microsoft and I thought, if people can get their texts on the Mac and that's a competitive edge, I'd try to put a thing together too. Yeah. I don't know. Doesn't hurt anything, but personally, I'd find it probably more frustrating if it's ignoring all of my group messages and not letting me send photos. But if I were Microsoft, I'd try what I could. So I don't blame them.
It's like you having an Android. If you have an Android phone and you're trying to get it to work and on your Mac, it's the same type of challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But you really hit, I guess, the other part where I felt that, okay, this is going to be a very, very subpar experience. And yes, okay, it does give you the opportunity. Yeah, well.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
And so, I feel like I don't see how that can hurt Apple. Because Microsoft clearly can't say that. The only thing Microsoft can say is that, well, Apple's not supporting us. But beyond that, it's like they're delivering a very substandard experience.
I don't think Apple would care about this. I think they will just be like, and Jim, you started saying, well, this is a substandard experience. We're talking about people that have chosen to use Windows, so.
Chosen or have to for business reasons.
Right.
Good point.
That's good.
And if it's the option you have or the one you feel like you have, sending a text here and there is better than not sending it. But when Siri won't read me a group message, I get real cranky. So I know that's enough for me to know that I wouldn't love it. But also, there's a reason I'm self-employed and I don't ever have to use a PC again. Put a knock on wood or something.
For me, it just puts Siri and Cranky and they go together like. We don't even need task messages. Just put, Siri and Cranky. I'm in.
Well, and to your point, Jim, I think Apple does care because they are not. Forgive me, I'm blanking on the protocol that would allow
RCS.
Thank you. Yes. Tim Cook has specifically said, that famous quote, there's, if somebody wants to participate in iMessage, then go out and get a Mac. And,
No, I'm saying I don't think they'll care about this goofy thing that Microsoft has done.
Oh, well, yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. But I do think they care very much about the experience.
I agree. I don't think it's that. They want you to just buy all Apple hardware.
Well, sure.
Of course.
Sure. That's the whole point of it.
Sure.
And they had discussions inside Apple that are well documented that some people there wanted to bring iMessage to Android. And it was decided probably at Tim Cook's level, no, we're not going to do that. We want people, we think that would make it too easy for people to mix Android and iPhones, and we don't want people to do that. We want them to buy iPhones.
On the Microsoft side, I think this is good enough to kind of have a conversation, let people experiment with it. If people are going to have a problem with it or not or whatever, it's enough to be out there. It's not with all of the users, so they don't have to worry if later they decide not to ship it. But like everything else, they try something. If it's not quite good enough, then they iterate, try it again, iterate, try again. the timing on it, I think, is pretty good because there's enough different places where, there are people looking at Apple as a monopoly in whatever area. So maybe Apple won't push back too hard because it's like, oh, well, yes, this does exist under Windows, so we aren't blocking anybody. It might give an out there too. I think it's going to be kind of a wait and see what happens. I don't know if it'll ever make it into a production system, but I think everybody is kind of looking at it as a curiosity at this point, and it certainly isn't really competing against the Apple experience. On the other hand, if you just want to be able to type a message out in the middle of a conversation, it covers that.
Your monopoly point is a really good one, Eric, especially since this already, almost by definition, is delivering a substandard experience. So, why fight it? Brad in the chat room says iMessage for Android or Windows only helps other companies, not Apple. Fair point.
I think so.
Yeah,
I don't understand, Eric, how could Microsoft, iterate and try again? I just don't see whether there's anything further they can do because they don't control, sounds like they've gone as far as they can with the API that Apple has provided. And, that's it. It's dead end. So either it's good enough or, doesn't matter if it is or not. This is what they can do.
True. I mean, that doesn't mean they won't come up with something else or try to ship an app on Apple's side or, weird to be tried. This makes...
I don't see how they could do that because that would still, then that would have to, talk to Apple's servers.
Well, they've tried to ship two of those apps, Teams and Skype.
It's worth a while.
Well, sure, but those aren't apps that talk to iMessage.
Yeah.
The only way to talk to, the software that talks to iMessage is embedded in Apple's code in Message. Apple does not, provide that. Some other, company can't, as far as I know, there's no way to get in there for a third-party software to do anything with iMessage.
I'm going to move us on because the next topic really does sort of relate. Well, it also definitely relates to Microsoft, but this was from 9 to 5 Mac. Punch it in here real quick. That they have launched updated Bing, Edge, and Skype iOS apps with ChatGPT and voice input. And I really was anxious to hear this crew talk about this integration of ChatGPT into everything and Microsoft's rush into it. Now, look, I understand they're trying to get ahead of Google and they're trying to, they really haven't had great results. Cortana was there and then it died, or she died, or he died, or it died, or whatever.
Whatever it was.
What, Dave?
So whatever it was.
Yeah, whatever it was, it's gone now. But it occurred to me the other day, do you guys remember, I don't know if it's probably been longer than 10 years now, but you remember when oat bran was being put into everything? Because it was supposed to be good for you. Oat bran, in your milk, oat bran in your cereal, oat bran in your shampoo. And I'm kind of starting to get the feeling that ChatGPT is like that right now. Just everybody's rushing to integrate this. And in some quarters, it's doing okay. In other quarters, it's wreaking havoc. I know there was an article this week that some publishers have been inundated with ChatGPT generated science fiction stories, and they're trying to figure out what to do with that. And Microsoft is just advancing this. Is this a good idea? Is it ready for that kind of prime time?
Let's back up a minute. What have they done? It's like saying, they haven't, they've got a new program and it's compatible with websites. Because that's what ChatGPT is. It's a website.
Well, it has a robust API. There are ways people can integrate it into other programs.
Lots of websites have APIs, It's basically you give, the API is here's a question, and it comes back with some text. What's to integrate? This is like something, whatever they did, if somebody spent more than a day on it, then they, probably need a poor evaluation. So, I think to your point, Chuck, I think this is just headline chasing. There's no there. All ChatGPT is all on the server side. Nothing is running on your mobile device.
But Jim, that's not my point. My point is, though, that they are rushing to integrate this instead of waiting until it feels like a bit more of a fully baked product.
But there is no integration. It's a server technology. So you go to your web browser and it's integrated. It's integrated with every device.
The Bing version has different rules, different things set up. It is not the same. It is not the same experience as going to the OpenAI website.
Right. And
but it's a different. So maybe I guess what they've done is put it in the search bar, just like sort of like Google is integrated with Safari. Is that what they've done? Yes. And that's still like probably an hour's worth of work. Also, it could be argued whether that should be the default. I don't think I would want that as the default for my search bar.
To actually answer Chuck's question, Microsoft invested heavily in ChatGPT. They're going to use it as soon as possible.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, you're right.
It's about money.
They threw a pile of money at it, and I'm just wondering if maybe they threw too much money at it too quickly. Jim, I hear your point, and maybe integration is not the right word. So because you're speaking like a developer, and I'm thinking more just the fact that now they're bolting ChatGPT on. How's that to Bing, to what was it, to Skype iOS apps and Edge, and it's like, really? Ben, you're up there.
Yeah.
Waiting.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, at this point, whether it's ready or not is slightly immaterial because they brought it out in the world. They have people talking about Bing again, which when's the last time you heard about that? So
I know when Microsoft announced they were going to have a new search engine.
Yeah. Yeah. But right now, they have that notoriety with this Bing of ChatGPT, and they have to capitalize on that now monetarily. I mean, granted, they probably should have waited several months to a year to make this announcement, but honestly, I think they were scared Google would get there first.
And they're only allowing. I mean, they're letting people in as they go here with their we're added to a waiting list. So there's probably still people waiting to get in here. I just noticed I have access today. I didn't even realize it. So it's now working. So and I just tried it on the Microsoft Edge browser on the Mac, and it works on there too. So doesn't have to be on Windows. The Bing app in iOS, they just updated it today, so that app is working as well as the Edge app on there as well, the Edge browser. So they're all in with this, and it just I think the waiting list is starting to dwindle down. More and more people are in it, and it's gonna be something interesting.
Brian, you're in the education market, and I know there's been a lot of concern over the education market.
Yeah,
with the education market over ChatGPT. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think like any other thing, it's a tool, and students oftentimes, if you want to talk to them about ideas of plagiarism, you want to really get behind the reasons why. So if they're jumping in and trying to get answers from ChatGPT, similar in some ways, I suppose, if getting it from websites and not crediting where they got that information, it just seems a few steps easier though. It's so early. I haven't seen any papers personally turned in yet in that way. At least I don't think so. Yeah.
Brad in the chat room says ChatGPT is often overloaded and is still not ready for daily use, according to their own website. Really good point. Really good point. And where was the other one? Oh, Cortana is with Clippy, wherever that is. Thank you, Barry. Oh, this is an interesting comment by Barry. He says, I say go for it, Microsoft. I'd rather use their products than Google's. Now, that's a really interesting talk about the devil in the deep blue sea.
Yep.
I have to process it a little, Barry. I'm not so sure. Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by Kolide. Our sponsor, Kolide, has some big news. If you're an Okta user, they can get your entire fleet to 100% compliance. How? If a device isn't compliant, the user can't log into your cloud apps until they fix the problem. It's that simple. Kolide patches one of the major holes in zero trust architecture, device compliance. Without Kolide, IT struggles to solve basic problems by keeping everyone's OS and browser up to date. Unsecure devices are logging into your company's apps because there's nothing there to stop them. Kolide is the only device trust solution that enforces compliance as part of authentication, and it's built to work seamlessly with Okta. The moment Kolide's agent detects a problem, it alerts the user and gives them instructions on how to fix it. If they don't fix the problem within a set period of time, they're blocked. Kolide's method means fewer support tickets, less frustration, and most importantly, 100% fleet compliance. Visit Kolide.com to learn more or book a demo. That's Kolide, KOLIDE.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Kolide for supporting this week's MacVoices. Anybody else have any thoughts on that? I mean,
yeah, actually, it's giving Google some competition that Google hasn't had for a while on the search engine side of things, which in theory is good for everybody.
And I have to say, whatever competition there was, people would be more likely to go to DuckDuckGo than they would Bing.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't DuckDuckGo powered by Bing?
DuckDuckGo is powered by Bing?
I mean,
No.
I think so.
I don't think so.
I mean, whether
They
it
don't
is or
own their
isn't.
own. I really don't know.
I don't think it is.
I think Yahoo was using Bing. Is that the issue?
I agree with that, Brett. I thought Yahoo was using Bing, but I thought DuckDuckGo was built from the ground up. Oh, its own.
There were certain ads from Yahoo Bing, so maybe it's the ad part, but
Yeah, if you look that up, saying DuckDuckGo is based on Bing, it's the search come back as saying it's from Wikipedia, saying it's a compilation of over 400 sources according to itself, including Bing, Yahoo, Search Boss, Wolfram Alpha, and so on and so forth.
But
oh yeah,
it does have it in there though.
It says one of 400 different sources that DuckDuckGo uses.
Pretty much everybody, not Google.
But none from Google, as it says it right in there. None from Google.
Well, one other thing, sort of while we're talking about Microsoft, and this sort of circles back to the first situation, that this week, I'm taking this from Apple World Today. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency Director Jen Easterly has held up Apple as a positive example of accountability and transparency for its security practices, pointing out that 95% of iCloud users enable multi-factor authentication. And she would like to see some of the others do the same or better. And I thought this was, given all the questions we have over government surveillance and and the desire by the FBI to have access in, maybe, and some others too. I thought this was really an interesting comment that, Apple, 1 minute Apple seems to be criticized by one part of the government, the next minute it's being praised by a different part of the government.
Well, I mean, those are two different branches of the government with two completely different purviews.
The right hand doesn't know what the left hand approves of.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? So I just, I thought it's nice to finally see somebody giving Apple a little bit of credit, though, for their pro-privacy activities.
Indeed.
The A lady just had something to say about that.
That hasn't happened before.
She wants to speak up in defense of not privacy.
Apparently so, yeah. Somebody is listening here. Oh my God, I'm in trouble.
Sorry.
Let's see here. Jim, this one's for you. I know you'll have something to say about this. Rovio announces they're pulling Angry Birds Classic from sale on Android and hiding the game on iOS, apparently in favor of selling a newer version of Angry Birds that includes a subscription.
Well, I'm not a game developer or a gamer. I did see the story. I thought the part about hiding it on iOS was really weird. So apparently it's still going to be there, but just under a different name. So you sort of have to know the secret handshake. And if you do, then it's still there, which I'm not sure how that works in today's internet age.
Well,
Yeah,
what I wasn't clear on is we'll use. I mean, there were several articles about this. The first one I read indicated that if you had already downloaded it, you would continue to be able to play it. But it gets a little strange about they're hiding it so you won't be able to download it. Maybe unless you've already owned the app and you're just re-downloading it since you've already paid for it or purchased it or whatever.
My take on it was that they were changing the name of it in the App Store. So if you knew the name, you could still download it, but it's not going to be called Angry Birds. But
you're right.
I guess the underlying app ID, whatever, isn't changing. So if you already had downloaded it, the app ID would still work. But whatever the new name is, if you know that secret, like here's the new name, you could still download it. Was what I got out of it.
Yeah, the pending further review by the App Store, it will be renamed to Red's First Flight.
Right, that's what I saw. Yeah, so still there. I mean, they just don't want to have their brand associated with it anymore. I don't know. I don't have a strong feeling. Their game. Lots of apps have gone away and aren't available anymore. So here's one that at least is still available.
I mean, the original Angry Birds was originally written for the 3GS. So my guess is Rovio has long since made all the money it can with this game to the point where it's probably become a liability for them.
Liability in the financial sense, Ben?
Yeah, where they're probably spending more to keep it going than they're making in revenue from it.
Spending money to do what?
Keep it up to date.
Keep it up to date, search servers, that type of stuff.
Keep it still functioning as the OS advances.
Yeah.
Well, then that doesn't make sense. Why would they? They're not shutting down any server or anything. The game is still there. People can still play it. They can even still download it if they know if that was the case, I'd expect them to just shut it down full stop. But apparently, they think that will get them bad, juju with customers. So they're not doing that.
Well, I agree with that, Jim, and it feels like this is maybe a nice, quiet way to exit out and transition over to something that's A, more modern, and B, has a subscription model so that you have a more consistent flow of cash.
Yeah, I think they just don't want new customers to buy this one-time deal. They want the Angry Bird is what customers know. So they're assuming that a new customer will search for Angry Bird. They won't find the one-time payment thing. And so they'll buy the subscription thing, and that's what they want. And for whatever reason, I guess they think it will be some sort of backlash if they actually remove the old one. So they're not doing that. But that's the only kind of weird thing. It's like, why don't they just remove it? But that would probably get all the people that paid for it. They would be upset.
Does anybody? Are there any Angry Birds players here?
I've played it, but not a long time.
Okay.
Probably been close to 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, they certainly. I mean, somebody has done a great job of marketing this because, you see, what is it? Is Progressive Insurance has Angry Birds in their one commercial?
That's recent.
I think I've got that wrong. If you go to Top Golf, you can, there's an Angry Birds game that you can play there, by hitting the ball into a virtual wall and having it collapse or having the whole Angry Birds theme. So they've milked this for a long time and done pretty well with it. It'll be interesting to see what they do going forward with it. Okay. Next up, I guess last week or week before last, we sort of beat a little bit on Spotify. And now The Verge has pointed out that 2 years ago, I can't believe that, Spotify announced their hi-fi service, I assume to compete with Apple lossless. And 2 years later, it still hasn't shipped. Now, I'm not a Spotify user, so I didn't even pay any attention to this. But that is a little surprising, especially given the story we talked about last week or a couple of weeks ago was that Spotify was laying off people. Does anybody care?
Well, here's the thing. Spotify is mostly a streaming music service. And to my knowledge, there really still isn't a lossless streaming codec out there. So they could bring it out, but basically nobody could use it.
Elaborate a little on that, Ben. You mean a truly lossless as opposed to what Apple offers?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what Apple offers in that hi-fi lossless range, you can listen to that on your Mac via headphones. You can't stream it to any device.
Right.
So it is a bit of a niche audience.
Yeah, but if Spotify is, I mean, I guess I'm trying to think what the difference is between Spotify and Apple Music. Yes, Apple controls the Mac, and yes, you can listen to it, but you still, to get the full experience, you still need an outboard decoder on your Mac. And so Spotify could do the very same thing with Apple. All they would have to do, right? Listen to me, it sounds so simple, but they would have to have a Spotify client for the Mac that would support that codec, the streaming coming from Spotify and from Windows too. And so, I mean, is this truly a drop ball, or?
Sounds like it.
I mean, that's the way I see it, Jim. I agree. It does. It feels like Spotify bet a whole lot of money on podcasts, and we've talked about that before too. And what they were trying to accomplish, they failed at. And now, is this one more thing that they failed at? That they keep promising and keep trying to push, even though they do have a bigger subscription base than Apple Music? that they just are not delivering, or don't their customers really care?
And I'm not sure why are you saying there's no such thing as lossless audio? This article says that Apple, Amazon, Tidal, Kuba, how do you pronounce that? And Deezer all have it. I mean, a lossless codec sounds like the easiest thing ever. I mean, the whole point of codecs is to do compression. So just make one that doesn't do compression. Now, that's going to take a lot of bandwidth,
Yeah.
But it shouldn't take much engineering time. I mean, that's called, lossless is just don't change anything. That's not even a codec, really.
Yep. And that bandwidth issue is why you see it as a physical connection only and not wireless.
The bandwidth is where the engineering challenge can come in. Now, there isn't one, but it's less on the how do I get the file format there and more how do I make this go to the devices adequately and then to their ears adequately?
Because, I mean, the majority of people aren't using pair of nice reference headphones like these. They're using these.
Next time on MacVoices, this panel wraps up our discussion of Spotify's failure to deliver on a lossless promise. We talk about Angry Birds. We talk about TSMC selling all of their 3-nanometer chips to Apple, and more. That's next time on MacVoices. I hope you'll join us. I'm Chuck Joyner. As always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.